Good afternoon. I'm Dara Bunjon. I'm the food enthusiast here at J More Living. I'm a food writer, food stylist, PR maven, and a frustrated baker. Those of you joining us live, drop your comments and questions for my guest or myself into the comment box, and I will check from time to time. Today's guest, live from Spain, is journalist and multiple cookbook author Janet Mendel. She describes herself as a culinary foreign correspondent. Her just released cookbook, Flavors of al-Andalus, The Culinary Legacy of Spain in Modern Day, is basically our focus today. Her other cookbooks are Cooking in Spain, Traditional Spanish Cooking, My Kitchen in Spain, 225 Authentic Regional Recipes, Tapas, A Bite of Spain, Cooking from the Heart of Spain, Food from La Mancha. Chef Jose Andres said in her new cookbook, Flavor of al-Andalus, this is a fascinating book about history, but not stuck in time. Janet is a time traveler, telling us stories about the past, but always making them relevant, bringing the world of al-Andalus, a region very closest to my heart, to our kitchens today. And that was a quote from Jose Andres. Let's bring Janet in. Hi, Janet.
Oh, hi, Dara. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. I'm trying to get this situated too myself here. Let's see. There you are. You're very nice and large for me right here. Okay, everybody, we're working from Spain with Zoom, which is new to all of us as well. So bear with us. Janet, you know, I food styled for you, I think it was 20 years ago, and we
Right.
haven't seen each other since, but what a great opportunity. It's evening in Spain right now. It's 6 p.m., a little after. What kept you busy today while you were prepping for this and doing other things? What filled your day?
Well, today it was really prepping, getting my kitchen cleared so that there would be a space for this. Here I am in my kitchen in Spain.
Well, it
But
looks,
normally, I live about 2.5 kilometers outside of the village of Mijas in southern Spain. And normally I would go into the pueblo about 3 days a week and do a morning aerobics class, go to the market, see friends, have coffee. And so those are my out days. But today I've been at home all day.
well, I've sort of prepped for that. I was out early. There you are. I'm seeing you live. I'm just checking on my computer screen right here. Um, there we are. Okay.
Okay.
Uh, what brought you to Spain? You've been living there now, what, 50 years?
More. It's closer to 60 by now. Yes, most of my life, as it turns out. Well, that goes back a long time. It was 1966, and my then husband and I were both journalists in the Chicago area. And we just decided to pull up roots and take a year off, or at least as long as our meager savings lasted. And we came to this small village in southern Spain, and we liked it. And what was one thing and another, I'm not sure what all the one things and the others were, but we just never went back. We managed to eke out a living as freelancers and built a house, had 2 kids, and stayed.
Well, it's funny. I'm sitting here, we're working on the phones, but I have a big screen and I'm looking. I can even see better your beautiful kitchen, the copy of your book, which folks I have here.
Right. Flavors
And
of Al-Andalus.
pardon me,
Flavors of Al-Andalus.
Flavors of al-Andalus. What is al-Andalus? Explain that to folks.
That's a good question. And that's where I start the book, actually, because not everybody would know. It refers to Moorish Spain, the 8th centuries that Muslims ruled most of what is now Spain. It wasn't Spain then. It was the kingdom or the caliphate that then broke up into separate little kingdoms, but the whole area was known as al-Andalus. Now, in this day and age, in modern times, Andalusia is the region in Spain of southern Spain, most of which was previously part of al-Andalus. But al-Andalus at its heyday went all the way to the very top of Spain, not just the south. Does that explain
right? Yeah, and Andalusia is what people might understand, but in the book, which gives us history, but it's not a history book.
Right.
It's a recipe book, but for all the different books that you've written about the foods of Spain, foods of La Mancha, tapas, authentic recipes, traditional Spanish cooking, this goes back to a time when it was the Moors, it was Sephardic Jews, it was a number, there weren't Spanish people in there. There were people from North Africa. I think you even said on a clear day you can sort of see Africa.
Right from my kitchen window, right?
Right.
Not today. Today it's too hazy.
Right. But in this, the how these foods influenced, and I think at one point in your research, how going back century upon century, oh God, it could have been the 13th century that you found a cookbook that how complex and sophisticated the recipes were at that time.
They were. You have to remember, this is medieval Europe, and the rest of medieval Europe was sort of pretty pretty basic living, whereas at least the court or the highborn of Muslim Spain were eating very refined meals and proper courses and a table set with beautiful objects, and meal times were very, very special, and the food was very, very special.
Was there a particular inspiration? You have 5 cookbooks, and let's see, your last book was 2005, was it?
2008, actually. The Tapas book may have been the very last one. And the La Mancha book, which is when I met you on that book tour for the La Mancha cookbook, was, I think, right before that, 2008. But yeah, that goes back a while. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. We just a couple years back. You've covered a lot of, but living in Andalusia, living where you are, I'm assuming this was sort of an inspiration to dig deep into the history.
That's exactly
the dishes.
Right. What I wanted to write a book about the food of Andalusia, of today's Andalusia, the real home cooking, the peasant food, really. Andalusia is peasant country before it was tourist country. And I wanted to delve into that. And nobody seemed to want just an Andalusian cookbook because, I mean, what have you got? You've got gazpacho and a few of the big cocidos. It sounded too ordinary. But then I thought, well, let's go into the roots of today's food, the home cooking, the real traditional food, but where did it all come from? And that was pretty easy to actually dig up. Of course, then when I started, to actually get a list of recipes, that was pretty good. Then, of course, I started researching to find out, well, what are the roots and where was this eaten and why? And how did it come to, and could they make gazpacho with no tomatoes? Because this is before Columbus brought tomatoes back from the New World.
There's no corn, basically no beans, no tomatoes. So
Right.
cooking was bread, almonds, sherry vinegar, oranges. I'm just trying to think of some of the other staples. As for heat, because the Arabic background and the cross section was sort of a spice trail area as well, North Africa
Right.
and coming up to you, there were no chilies.
There were no chilies. Can you imagine? And to this day, I have to say that in Spanish cooking, especially Andalusian, the southern Spanish, the main spice used is pimentón. Pimentón is the word for paprika. It's the ground red, sweet red chili, but I mean, it's not hot. Okay. That was not available. And that the main what it's is used for today is its substitutes for what was used then, which was saffron, which was the original color and warm, mellow flavor.
Right. And then I think, if somebody wanted heat, it was black pepper or they used ginger.
Yeah, black pepper and ginger if you really want a little bit of hot. Yeah.
It's very interesting. The pictures are beautiful.
Thank you.
Let me see. I put a little note tabs here. I thought it was interesting. I better put on the readers what you called the people of al-Andalus.
Right.
The Andalusia, the Arab, the Berber, the Converso, a Spanish Jew in medieval times who converted to Christianity, Hispano-Roman, Marrano. These are some nicknames. The Moors, and the Andalus, if it was a mixed marriage between religions, it was called, they were al-Andalusans. Did I read
No,
it right?
the Andalusi were the people who were mainly of, well, they all got mixed up. That's correct. Yes, there was a great deal of intermarriage, interbreeding between the different peoples who already lived here and the new people, the invaders, the colonizers who were Muslims. And eventually, after 800 years or 700 years, you can't really call them Arabs because they're not. They're Andalusi, which is
Right.
the word for and the main language was Arabic, which is why a lot of Spanish has so many Arabic rooted words.
Right. What's it for meatballs? What's the word for meatballs?
Albondigas,
Yes.
albondigas. Yeah,
Yeah.
I put that on the cover of my book because that's
And people know that.
right.
Um,
Albondigas doesn't actually mean meatballs in Arabic. It means a hazelnut, which is just a small round nut, which came to mean meatballs. But it is
the
straight from the Arabic, yes.
right. And you stress it's not a history book. You're giving roots to recipes in here. In fact, you were kind enough, and if people will see a link on J More Living, that you supplied us with a recipe from black eyed peas.
Right.
And it is on J More Living's website. We have many recipes there. And what a perfect time for that. Um, New Year's coming, black eyed peas is sort of traditional for New Year's Eve. I'm trying to think, is this one with some Sephardic roots?
It is indeed. And it could have been for Rosh Hashanah as well as, I mean, that other New Year, as well as the coming New Year. The beans, the word judía in Spanish means bean. Now, there weren't any beans like pinto beans in Spain at that time. They come from the New World. But there were the black eyed peas, which I actually
They
have here.
Yeah, they came from Africa, didn't they?
Came from Africa, correct? And they were very popular, especially amongst the Jewish population, the Sephardic population, which is why the word for beans judías, came to be called judías. And the other word for beans in Spanish is alubia, which comes from lubia in Arabic, which referred to another kind to the lentils or any of the legumes.
Right.
Though there were no beans, there were still words for beans.
Yeah. I think it's hard for people to comprehend, as we said early on gazpacho, that there's no tomatoes, that it was oranges. There were no peppers. It was oranges, bread, ground almonds.
Garlic and olive oil, right? Well, there were okay, in the orange one, there was no ground almonds. Now that, this book, there are two gazpacho recipes. One is white gazpacho, which is made with almonds and garlic and some bread for thickener, and the olive oil, of course. And that's known as ajo blanco. It's often served with grapes. And that's become fairly well known, even in America, alongside the red tomato gazpacho. And then the other one in the book is the orange gazpacho, which is called a winter gazpacho. And it's because oranges actually come into season starting about now. And when there's no tomatoes. So, but it goes back even further than that. They all start with a mixture of garlic crushed up with some bread and perhaps the almonds, and then the olive oil added to make an emulsion, and then whatever ingredients you want to add. So it was basically a peasant food to which you could add whatever you had available, whether it would be sliced oranges and figs, which is, by the way, that's a beautiful dish to prepare, and it's wonderful for like a holiday dinner, or it's good in the summertime instead of the regular kind of gazpacho.
Right. I saw where they pickled onions with beets.
Yeah, so you don't need red onions, you just need the beets to make them red. Yeah,
Right.
those are nice.
And it reminded me, and I sort of had notes. I used to work for company Acme Packing. They had the big pickled beet eggs and pickled the beet onions, pickled onions, big ones in jars.
Uh-huh.
Just going back, almonds really were very, very core to the cuisine. They were quite important in I know probably a number of people who like to bake have already made an almond torte Santiago, um, which you have a recipe in here for that. Great for if anybody's doing anything for Passover, because there's no no flour in there. Another thing that struck me about you talked about stuffing a deboned fish, um, season it with the fillet back into the fish. Somewhere in the book I saw it.
And then shape it like a fish. I'm not sure which one. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, well maybe I don't know. I read this a ways back and I left a note. The gefilte fish in Jewish means stuffed fish.
Right.
So it reminded me that maybe the Sephardic Jews of that time were doing that. We're seasoning the fillet of fish and stuffing it back into the fish itself to cook. But I could be wrong. I've known to be wrong a couple times, but
There may well be a relation. That particular reference, I think, was to one of the 13th century Arabic manuscripts that I referred to, that's in my bibliography. And it was just a wonderful description of how that you were supposed to chop up make a force meat, and then stuff the skin and reshape it into a fish, which then would be poached, much like gefilte fish, as you just said. That's an English translation of the Arabic manuscript from the 13th century. And there are no recipes today that are quite like that. Now, it's the sort of thing that a modern chef might do, very definitely, because it's quite fancy. But I don't have that recipe. I do have a recipe for stuffed sardines, though, which is pretty good.
And I think in reading that, that sort of probably put me into that mindset. You know, you mentioned saffron. Everybody relates saffron to Spanish food, to paella. You have a blog, everybody, and the links are coming up here, called
You're right.
mykitchenspain.blogspot.com. And that link is there. And you just did a blog post about saffron. And saffron's the most expensive spice in the world. And it's the stamen from the crocus.
Stigmas, yeah.
Stigma, sorry. And how to use it properly is usually sort of break it up and then add warm water to steep.
Yes, that's the best way, right? To crush it like in a small mortar and add a little bit of warm liquid, and let it infuse. And then scrape all of that, any of the solid material and the liquid into whatever you're cooking, paella or whatever it might be.
I want to tell people in the links coming up that for the book, Flavors of al-Andalus, there is a link where you can purchase the book and get 40% off. So that's going to be better than Amazon. So look for that link, and it gives you a keyword to put in to get the discount.
Right. Indie pubs. It's a link to indie pubs. Independent pubs. Yeah.
Okay, so you've done so much. The first cookbook was that one just cooking in Spain?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was way back in 1987, right? And that grew out of a monthly cooking column that I wrote for an English language magazine here on the Costa del Sol in Spain. I had been writing about Spanish cooking for the locals, for the expats, I should say,
Right.
and managed and collecting recipes from my neighbors. And whenever I was traveling, I would always be into somebody's kitchen asking for recipes. And so that grew into enough to make a cookbook out of. So that was the first one ever. And it was published in English in Spain, and sold for years on end. As a matter of fact, until the internet, right?
Yeah, I'm sure. And I'm sure you can look at the publishing now, what publishing is doing with cookbook versus back then, and what you learned from that first book and what you're doing now. Any tips to people who are contemplating a cookbook, what you think, what important things to focus on?
Ooh, no, I wouldn't really know. I mean, I read what other people have to say on that subject, and there's a lot of good stuff out there. But I don't know. To go back to a question you asked me before, what inspired this particular one? I wanted to write about Andalusian food, but I couldn't sell that book to anybody. They said, everybody shrugged and said, what, more gazpacho? So the thing is finding an angle that is somehow different from every other word.
Right. Well, it's having the hook.
Yeah, having a hook, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was listening to, who was I listening to? It was a podcast. Oh, it was Dory Greenspan.
Uh-huh.
And the person who was interviewing her said people know that if they do a Dory Greenspan recipe, that it's going to work.
Yeah.
And that
That's
comes to recipe testing. But she brought up a point, something, there was a recipe. The recipe was fine, but the photograph, let's say it was cookies, the photograph made the cookies look shiny, but when somebody made it, they were dull looking. So she had to redo it. That picture had to match what the
right.
photograph
Right.
produced.
Right.
So,
And
um,
you as a stylist would know all the tricks of the trade about how you make those shiny for the photograph. I could have
yeah,
used a stylist, but
I wasn't as great as Denise Vivaldo and some other people. They were true stylists. I just got into it by chance.
well,
But
I still remember when I had a presentation plate of it was a salad, a special salad from La Mancha, I think, and you brought it all. You had red endive leaves, and I said, "Wow, you just made this so much better." I still remember that very clearly. It didn't take a lot, but you knew.
well, sometimes instinctive, and colors, just colors to make things pop.
Absolutely.
Yeah, folks, anything you want to know about Spanish food, la da 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 da. All the links to Janet's blog are all there. I want to ask Janet a couple of questions that I ask at the end of the show. What was your ultimate culinary fail?
Oh dear. Making churros. You know what churros are?
Yes.
Those, yeah. And the Spanish ones are, at least here, are usually quite fat, big ones, fairly thick. They exploded in the pan over and over. I retested. I never completely figured out why. And so I just quit. I never made churros again. And I put it in any more of my cookbooks. That was the end of that. There's a similar recipe, which is much simpler to make, which are buñuelos, and they are in the book, in this book. But churros was a fail.
Yeah. Janet, if you wake up tomorrow with a new talent, what would the new talent be?
I'd be a fix-it person. Fix the toaster or the blender or the vacuum cleaner or whatever. I'd be a fix-it person. I'd probably be rich too.
Believe me, if you had those talents, you could set up a YouTube channel
Right.
and say, Mrs. Fix It, and
Right.
women wouldn't be hesitant if they see you doing it. Janet, if you can go back to your 18-year-old self and give your 18-year-old self a piece of advice, what would it be?
Well, it's not related to cooking really, but I would say, oh, don't start smoking. If you don't start, you'll never have to quit. And I finally quit, but I'm reaping yeah, that's a bad thing to ever have done.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Wow.
I did it. I think I quit in my 40s. And at that time, I never got up and put a cigarette in my mouth. I waited till I went out to work. But I think when I quit, I was at 3 packs a day.
Well,
So,
I didn't know that I was that heavy, but I was in my 40s, early 40s when I quit. I mean, it's been 30, almost 40 years since I quit, but I now have been
reaping the benefits of the bad behavior.
so, yeah, it catches up with you even
Yeah.
after years. Yep.
Yep.
So
All right. So, lesson learned, everybody who's watching. Don't start smoking. All
okay.
right. Now to good news. What was the best bite you've had all week?
Ooh, the home cured olives. I meant to have a little bowl of them here too. I could. We pick our own olives, and some of them we crack in the old. I don't know whether you saw, but the first recipe in the book is for olives, herb marinated olives. It's how to make bottled olives taste like the original ones. And the original ones have thyme and fennel and garlic and usually lemon. And they're not pitted, but they're cracked to split the skins open, and then they're cured in brine. And they're delicious. And the rest of the olives were just finished. We finally had good rain yesterday. And so we'll finish picking the rest of them and take them to the mill and bring home extra virgin olive oil. The best stuff in the world.
I know. Look, when I can get a good jar of it, I'm using it here to cook with. I don't, they used to say don't do high temperatures. It can handle it. So
that's an old wives' tale. You can fry in olive oil very well because you don't need high temperatures. So no. Yeah, I'm gung ho. I don't have any other cooking fat in my kitchen or butter. I mean, I don't use any of that. Every now and then I have lard, but never use butter, never use other oil.
Yeah.
We had fried potatoes just yesterday, fries, fried in olive oil, which are delicious, absolutely delicious. Of course, they're not Moorish because
no. They're current day, but
right.
Two musts that have to be in your refrigerator.
Well, olive oil and eggs, but I don't keep either one in the fridge, actually. So my fridge could probably go empty. I have nothing that has to be in there. Obviously, fresh fish goes in there, but I don't have to have it there.
Well, the eggs here, because how they're cured and they have a coating on them, need to be in the refrigerator. You're getting fresh from the chickens.
Right. Well, they're treated differently, even in the supermarket eggs. They're apparently, what I understand is in America, they're washed, which washes off the coating. Therefore, you must refrigerate because things can get in through the shells. Whereas here, they have their natural coating, and so they're safe outside of the fridge. But in very hot weather, I still refrigerate them, but mainly I never, ever put eggs in the fridge.
Miss Janet Mendel, what didn't I ask you that I probably should have?
Well, why might your audience be interested in this book? And because, as you did point out, it's not historical recipes. There are historical recipes out there, but these are foods that people eat today. You could find in a tapas bar in Sevilla. And also at the end of the book, I have this section called Suggested Menus. And this will give you ideas about how to use all of these recipes in a tapas party, for example. Family dinners, I've got 3 or 4 family dinners, including a vegetarian one, a vegetarian Sunday lunch, and then a dinner party, holiday meals, both the spring holidays, and I'm talking about all of them, Passover, Easter, whatever else there is, and then the same for the fall, winter. So you got from Thanksgiving to Hanukkah to New Year's Eve, everything in between.
Right.
Lots of ideas about how to use these recipes in your own life.
Well,
so that you get the wonderful flavors of al-Andalus, but you adapt it to your own way of living.
Okay, so let me wrap up, folks, and we'll let Janet get back to a nice evening on the Costa del Sol, as opposed to... Right. So Janet Mendel, okay, her blog, mykitcheninspain.blogspot.com. You can see recipes and her stories. The book, Flavors of al-Andalus, The Culinary Legacy of Spain. Links to purchase are up on the website. You can follow her on Instagram, My Kitchen in Spain. I want to thank you so much We had some technical things. We got it all cleared out and time change. And it's just been a joy to see you again. And thank you for welcoming us into your beautiful kitchen. All
Thank
the
you, Janet,
best.
for inviting me. It's been a pleasure. I hope you'll try out some of those recipes.
I am going to. I will start off. I get into the baking the torta, so I'll probably hit that one
Good,
pretty
good.
soon. Pretty soon.
You know
All
how
the
it goes.
best. All the best of the holiday season. Thank you, Janet.
And the best to you. Yes, igualmente, as they say. Thank you,
You're
Dara.
you're
Bye.
welcome. Okay, everyone. Next week, be prepared to go back in time. My guest will be the Restaurant Association of Maryland's 2009 Chef of the Year, Michael Gettier, who in 1992, as executive chef at the Conservatory Restaurant atop the Peabody Hotel in Baltimore's Art District, Mount Vernon, helped give gravitas to Baltimore's food scene after being named one of the best hotel chefs in the U.S. by James Beard Foundation. We're going to reminisce about the burgeoning food scene in the 90s, his restaurants and what he did. He was a Lavarine graduate, a restaurateur with M. Gettier on Broadway, M. Gettier Orchard Inn, executive chef at the exclusive Antrim 1844. Do join the conversation. I might not find Waldo, but I found Michael. Where is he now? So join us next Thursday. If you need to reach me, my Instagram is at Dara Cooks on Instagram. And on Facebook, I do have a page called The Food Enthusiast. jmoreliving.com. Go to the site and click on the menu where it says food, and you will find a link to all the Food Enthusiast videos and links to sign up for the bi-monthly food newsletter. And also, you'll find, especially with this link to this show, there'll be a link where to purchase the book, and you'll be able to access the recipe that Janet donated to the website. All shows are immediately archived in video form on Jmore Living's Facebook page and jmoreliving.com. We truly appreciate it when you share our show with friends and family. Feel free to go back into our archives and enjoy past shows. May your plates always, always be full.